There are exactly two types of lifters: those who read research, or as we call them, scientists, and those who don't, who are simply bros. Now, this is a universal truth across all disciplines, even in fields that have no research. Ascended to chess grandmaster? Bro. Master chef? Unless you made that flan in a lab, you're a bro. What about MMA coaches? Well, somewhere there's a study that was looking at what the average successful submission was across 12 different white belts, and I didn't see you reference it, so you're a bro. Now, in all fields, but especially lifting, we don't listen to bros, because bros are on steroids, and steroids make you reach your natty limit in 2 months, and that invalidates all of your work as a scholar and coach. In fact, bros need to listen to scientists. The king of all bros, Ronnie Coleman, was known for his high-intensity, high-volume, ball-busting, barbell and dumbbell-based workouts, but despite weighing over 300 pounds on stage, he would have been bigger if he followed the evidence.
Short answer is they would all have bigger quads with less injuries if they trained more like we're saying. Yes, absolutely, yeah.
But he didn't have any evidence, so instead, he'll have to settle for being the greatest to ever live. Now, bros will often try to appeal to vibes-based language like practical experience and historical precedent, and they only do that so they can shoehorn in their silly bro methods, but it's vitally important that you discard all of that. Instead, you want to simplify your training to individual variables, and you want to understand that at any given time, this variable is what all your gains are going to hinge on. After 6 months of digesting stretch-mediated hypertrophy literature, you might wonder if the stretch isn't also influenced by the other variables in the workout. You're obviously mistaken, and I'll forgive your weak character this time, but to set you straight, here's 10 more videos on the stretch. Even if we thought that training is something that should be evaluated holistically, we don't have any research on it, so it's basically pagan worship. Looking at training as an entire system is no different than sacrificing animals to Moloch on Epstein Island. I mean, here's an example. Imagine you're making a dish for a cooking contest and you decide to consult the head of the brand new culinary science department at the local college. Over the decades, they have compiled tens of studies that collected data on average ingredients used in baking. Hey, I was wondering how much salt I should use in my 3 tablespoons is the optimal amount. How do you know that? Well, last month we looked at 18 different dishes on Pinterest. We just calculated the average salt usage on the ones that got 4.5 stars. 3 tablespoons, you're welcome. But what, like different dishes? I think there were a few quiches in this one. A tiramisu, a couple of vegan recipes. This doesn't seem intelligent. Now at first you might think that the different ingredients in each dish might react differently with the salt, or that some dishes might involve bigger proportions. But this is again just pagan witches in your ear trying to move you towards Satan. Obviously you trust the science, so you just put the 3 tablespoons of salt in the dish and stop asking so many fucking questions. Now if you haven't caught on yet, the important takeaway here is that science is absolutely paramount. And the best indicator of good science is to see if it feels sciencey or not. And that's the only way you're going to pull out the best methods. You see this cable thingy on the floor? Yeah, but you never would have thought to do that one, huh? Then what would you have done? Rows and pull downs? Presses and raises? Idiot. Thankfully, we live in a time of science. Now, once again, your skepticism might lead you to ask, do we know that this actually provides superior results over a long period of time in highly trained individuals? Well, my friend, I've got a study of 9 kids working out over a single college semester that tells you it does. Now, as you take your liberties piecemealing together these little bits of science into your Frankenstein's monster of evidence-based training, you want to make sure that you are extremely confident about your model of the world. See, people like watching science-based content for one reason, and that is because they trust the science to get them jacked. And you don't want to betray their trust or lose their attention by talking about nuance too long. You want to be sure to use the word optimal when describing your model of the world so that people do in fact know that what you're prescribing is better than anything else they could potentially do. You also want to make sure to change that model every few years to accommodate whatever individual topic is in the general zeitgeist at the moment. It's really important to stay relevant, and guys, science evolves. So nobody's really going to judge you for flip-flopping. As long as you're just as confident as you were last time, it's going to be all right. Now, eventually you will have multiple conflicting models that you have represented as being the optimal science-based way to train. But this is actually desirable because what you can do is write an ebook for each one and then just pick which one to promote based on whatever people are talking about right now. It's kind of like Starbucks having a seasonal rotating drink selection. Also, make sure all of your material is labeled according to science because you sure don't want people to think you're just making this up as you go, and you want science to get credit for all of this crystal clarity that you're providing. An important thing to know in your communication is that non-science-based bros are dumb as shit, so you have to communicate science to them with confidently strong language. Ideally, you should reduce the abstract of any research that you cite to a single sentence. Present the difference observed in the study as some truth that can be generalized universally, and then add in some flair, some adjectives in all caps to really drive it home. Back in the day, I used to train a lot of middle-aged housewives, and I was always just super elated when they came to a session with a new nugget of truth that they picked up by watching Oprah or reading Women's World. What's that, Linda? Chocolate helps you lose weight? Well, you get a gold star today. Way to be ahead of the curve. And thankfully, Exercise Science Today has studs like Menno Henselman and Mike Israetel, who've really just captured the Women's World era of communication. Guys, if you want to hit the holy trifecta of gains, the size, the strength, and of course the clout, you need a program that checks the biggest boxes. Not only does it use the best time-tested movements that you are actually likely to stick to and improve on, but it includes a logical progression that is based on my most popular programs. These are programs that have gotten rave reviews from people that literally just ran the template. BaseStrengthAI uses 3 of the most proven templates pulled from the principles of some of the biggest, strongest men in history that have been used for over a century. The workouts are fun, intuitive, there's a logical progression, but it does take it up a notch because it personalizes the workouts to you. As you get bigger, stronger, more advanced, it becomes harder to tick those numbers forward, and you can't get by not adjusting your workouts to your own particular tolerances. Now, most people get an online coach to take care of that for them to the tune of $200 to $300 a month, and the rest of the people just never figure it out to begin with. So if you're wondering why you start every training cycle super excited only to get several weeks in, feel brittle, overtrained, tired, disillusioned, like you're just a dodgeball and the program is the side of a building, then you need direction that updates your training minute to minute, day to day, week to week based on your immediate feedback. BaseStrengthAI takes the guesswork out of training, and it does what only an online coach can do, which is personalize the program to you at 1/10 of the cost. Yes, 1/10 of the cost. So jump on the heart and soul of old school training. It's my programming, but it is your program and you cannot get that anywhere else. Hit up basestrength.com today to get started on your gains. Now, be aware that people are going to try to curb your efforts by adding a bunch of erroneous rules to how research should be handled and discussed. They'll claim how hard statistical analysis is, that the research hasn't been replicated, the sample sizes are small, and the differences aren't clinically significant. And they might even try to pull a fast one by claiming you're not qualified to read the research. This is, of course, just gatekeeping. Science is nothing if it's not inclusive, so it is absolutely vital to keep standards at an appropriate level so that we can accommodate more scientists. Understand that even PhDs are overrated.
PhD isn't some kind of proof of your superiority. It is step one in an academic research career, which most people don't even end up taking.
Think of it like a driver's license. Passing your test doesn't suddenly mean you're Max Verstappen.
The highest educational rank that you can get is really just a first step, like getting a driver's license. And this is an apt analogy for Milo because scientists closely edged out his second career choice, which was being a taxi driver. Now, while having an education is completely optional for accurately interpreting research data, getting a PhD also does make you an expert in everything else. Israetel's PhD is also why he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. In addition to that, it's made him an expert in geopolitics, psychology, racial dynamics, and the future of artificial intelligence. So remember, kids, if you want to be an expert in all of these fields, you too must commit to doing the bare minimum by getting a PhD that is the first step that also grants you authority in all of these realms. Now, because we are trying to make the scientific landscape more inclusive, you can also opt to not get a PhD because you have PubMed. As is evident by every forum and comment section on the internet, the availability of PubMed to the average person is the best thing to ever happen to the world. Thanks to this, now the average individual can teach themselves science and thereby have really reliable opinions on things like vaccines and nutrition. In fact, I think we need to increase the availability of engineering material. Why are we only having bridges and airplanes built by people with advanced degrees when we could leverage the collective knowledge of the average internet commentator? Now, some of you might not want to go full in on the science, and that's because you're too stupid to understand how smart all of this is. But that's just fine. You fence sitters can certainly just hang out in the middle ground and decide to do a little bit of science as it suits you. Optimal science-based tactics will certainly grow you more, but so will doing what works for you and doing whatever your personal preference is. Just like with physics, engineering, chemistry, results will absolutely not be tanked by just doing science where you feel like it and winging the rest. Whatever shortfall you have in your non-scientific application is going to be more than made up for by the little dash of science that you decide to use. Now, another cope or sound conclusion that you can make is that your lack of gains is something to do with your genetics. In the face of not seeing any growth despite your adherence to the evidence, you can just say that other people are more genetically blessed than you. And instead of trying something tried and true when you see that your chest isn't growing, stay faithful to the science by doing your weird chest flap thingies while holding a handle that's not attached to anything. The real plot twist is that you actually are jacked, and everybody should aspire to look like you, a naturally jacked individual, using science-based methods to attain the physique of an average high school middle distance runner. Now, you can also go all the way and embrace the black pill fully by saying that getting jacked is actually impossible. You could say Hugh Jackman's transformation from a sedentary drama kid to having the physique of an average swimmer is actually unattainable and only the byproduct of drugs plus elite genetics. And since gaining muscle and strength requires you to do something so immoral, the only logical conclusion is that getting jacked is lame anyways and a sign of a dysfunctional and oppressive society. You're sure not going to play into that. And at this point, you can order your PhD in sociology from the same department that gave Matt Wenning his PhD. You can hang it on the wall next to your online IQ test and sleep soundly that you are a faithful adherent to the science.